My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 26 years old, from Boston, and this is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, At the Gym Locker Room, she said. I'm not really married. It started like most ordinary evenings. I was drenched in sweat, leaning against the cold metal lockers, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing above me. The gym was nearly empty, just the echo of a weight machine clanking somewhere far off. I was untying my sneakers when I heard the soft sound of heels clicking across the tile floor. She shouldn't have been there. This was the men's locker room. But she stepped in as if she belonged, carrying a small towel in one hand, her gym bag slung effortlessly over her shoulder. Her name was Claire. I'd seen her before, across the rows of treadmills and mirrored walls. She wasn't flashy, but there was something magnetic about her. A quiet confidence, a poise that made people turn without understanding why. Wrong room, I muttered with a half-smile, trying not to stare. She glanced at me, eyes glinting like she knew a secret. I know. I froze, shoelace dangling in my hand. Then, what are you doing here? She let out a small laugh, the kind that disarmed me instantly. Hiding. It's quieter in here. No one looks for me here. I could have left it at that. But something about her calm defiance, the faint tremor beneath it, pulled me in. From who? I asked. Her eyes shifted toward the door. Then, almost like she couldn't hold it in any longer, she said, My husband. The word landed like a dropped weight. And then, softer, almost conspiratorial, she added, I'm not really married. I didn't know what to say. My heart picked up pace, not from the workout but from the strange intimacy of that moment. Not really, I asked cautiously. She sat down on the bench across from me, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of vanilla lotion. Her shoulders sagged as if she'd been carrying something heavy. It's complicated, she whispered. On paper, yes. In real life, no. He's absent. And I'm tired of living like I'm someone's shadow. Her words unsettled me. I barely knew her, yet here she was, confessing secrets in the men's locker room like I was the only person left she could trust. Why tell me? I asked. She looked right at me. Because you've been watching me. I felt the heat rise in my face. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were, she said gently, not accusing, just stating it like fact. And I've been watching you. That night I couldn't sleep. Her voice replayed in my head, the way her eyes lingered on me before she finally left. I'm not really married. I knew better than to get involved. My father had drilled that into me growing up. Don't invite fire into your life, Ryan. It burns everything in its path. But Claire, she wasn't fire. She was the quiet ember I didn't realize I needed, the one that warmed the cold, empty corners of me. I worked in marketing at a tech company downtown. A decent job, though the office politics drained me daily. My boss, Mason, was one of those corporate sharks who smiled while sharpening knives behind your back. I kept my head down, did my work, avoided conflict. But the truth was, I felt invisible. Then Claire happened, and suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. We started talking more at the gym. Small things at first: music, workout tips, her favorite podcast. Then deeper things, her childhood in Vermont, the pressure of her family expecting her to maintain the facade of a perfect marriage. She told me her husband, Daniel, was a high-ranking attorney, the kind of man who cared more about appearances than intimacy. He's powerful, she admitted one night, leaning against the elliptical machine. But power is cold when you sleep next to it. I nodded, pretending I understood, though what I really felt was jealousy. Jealous that someone else had her, even if only in name. One evening, after a particularly brutal day at work where Mason humiliated me in front of the team, I found her stretching in the corner of the gym. She noticed my mood instantly. What happened? She asked softly. I shook my head. Just work. Tell me. So I did. For the first time in months, I vented about the office politics, the way Mason dangled promotions only to hand them to his favorites, the exhaustion of pretending not to care. When I finished, she touched my hand. Just a light brush, but it sent a shock through me. You deserve better, Ryan. No one had said that to me before. Not like that. The first time we met outside the gym, it was her idea. A coffee shop tucked away on Charles Street, dimly lit and quiet enough that secrets could be exchanged without fear. She wore a navy coat and a scarf, her hair tied back. She looked like any ordinary woman, but when she smiled at me, I felt like I was in on a private rebellion. "Does he know?" I asked as we sat across from each other, steam rising from our mugs. "Daniel," she shook her head. "He wouldn't notice if I disappeared for a week. He's married to his reputation, not me." I hesitated. "Claire, I don't want to be a mistake you regret later." Her eyes softened. "You're not a mistake. You're the first real thing I've felt in years. I should have walked away then, but I didn't, because when you've spent years drifting, and someone suddenly sees you, not the surface, not the mask, but you, it's impossible to turn back." But here's where it all began to twist. One night, after we'd been meeting for a few weeks, she asked if I could drive her home. I hesitated, but she insisted. Her house was in Brookline, a pristine neighborhood with manicured lawns and towering colonial houses. When we pulled up, the porch light was on. She turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you ever come here again," she said, "don't ring the bell, just text me." "Why?" "Because if he answers, he won't just destroy me. He'll destroy you." Her words lodged deep in my chest. For the first time, I understood the stakes. This wasn't just a hidden romance. This was a storm I had willingly stepped into, one that could ruin us both. And yet, when she leaned in and kissed me that night, soft and trembling, I didn't resist. After that first kiss outside her house, nothing was the same. We tried to be careful. Coffee shops on side streets, walks along the Charles River at night when the city lights blurred in the water. At the gym, we kept our distance. Just nods, casual smiles. But behind the mask of routine, there was a pulse between us that neither of us could hide. I told myself it was harmless, that no one would ever know. But the human heart isn't built for secrets. They always leak out one way or another. At work, I started slipping. My focus scattered, my temper short. During a strategy meeting, Mason, the boss who thrived on humiliation, caught me staring out the window, lost in thoughts of Claire. "Carter," he snapped, "are we boring you?" The room chuckled, that cruel office politics laughter. I forced a smile, muttered something about reviewing the numbers, but Mason wasn't done. "Maybe if you spent less time daydreaming and more time working, you'd be useful around here." The sting stayed with me all day. That night, when I told Claire, she reached across the table at our hidden cafe and took my hand. "Don't let him define you," she said. "People like Mason feed off making others feel small. But I see you, Ryan. I see what you're capable of." Her words lit something in me. Anger, pride, longing. No one in my family ever spoke to me that way. My father believed in survival, not dreams. My mother, since the divorce, had grown bitter, repeating, "Men always disappoint." But Claire believed in me, and that belief was intoxicating. Then came the night everything began to unravel. I was leaving the office late, around 9, when I saw him, Daniel. I'd only ever heard his name in Claire's confessions, but there he was in the flesh. Tall, sharp suit, the kind of presence that made space bend around him. He was leaning against a black car outside the building, talking to Mason. My chest tightened. What the hell was he doing there? They shook hands, smiled, and then Mason clapped him on the shoulder like they were old friends. I ducked back inside the lobby before they could see me. My stomach dropped. Claire had told me Daniel was a high-ranking attorney, but she never mentioned he was tied to my boss. That night I couldn't sleep. I texted Claire, "Does Daniel know Mason?" Her reply came 10 minutes later. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I saw them together tonight." There was a long pause before she answered. "Ryan, you need to be careful. Daniel has ways of finding out things he shouldn't." Careful. That word sat heavy on me the next day. I began to notice things I hadn't before. My desk phone ringing with no one on the other line. My car door slightly ajar when I swore I'd locked it. A man in a gray coat standing too long outside the coffee shop while I waited for Claire. Was I paranoid? Or was Daniel watching me? I confronted her about it. Claire, if your husband finds out. He already suspects. She cut in, eyes glistening with fear. But he doesn't know it's you. I leaned forward. And if he finds out? Her voice cracked. He'll ruin you, Ryan. He'll use Mason. He'll use anyone. That's who he is. Her words should have scared me off. But instead, they pulled me closer. Because for the first time, Claire, the woman who always held herself with such calm, looked breakable. And I couldn't walk away from that. But the walls were closing in faster than I realized. The next week, Mason called me into his office. He was all smiles, pouring himself whiskey at 10 in the morning. Carter, he said, you've been distracted lately. I don't know if it's a girl or if you're just tired of this place, but I'm giving you some advice. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I frowned. I don't understand. He leaned back in his chair, eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. You will. That night, I told Claire what happened. She gripped my arm across the table. He knows, Ryan. Maybe not everything, but enough. You have to promise me. Don't let them see us together anymore. I wanted to argue, to tell her I wouldn't live in the shadows. But then she whispered, if you love me, you'll protect us. So I promised. For a while, we tried to pull back. Fewer meetings, shorter texts, no more late-night drives through the city. But love doesn't shrink just because you tell it to. It finds cracks to seep through. An accidental brush of hands at the gym, a glance across the room that lasted too long. And then came the breaking point. It was my sister Emily's engagement party. My family gathered in the backyard of my parents' house, laughter echoing under the string lights. I was nursing a beer when I felt someone watching me. I turned, and there he was, Daniel, standing at the edge of the crowd, talking to my father as if he belonged. My chest tightened. What the hell was he doing there? I made my way over, pulse racing. Ryan, my father said, clapping Daniel on the shoulder. This is Daniel Brooks, one of the top attorneys in the state. He's been giving me some advice on a legal matter. Daniel smiled at me, cold and knowing. Pleasure to finally meet you. Finally. The word struck like ice. He knew. I forced a handshake, his grip crushing mine. Same. For the rest of the night, I couldn't focus. My father, oblivious, seemed thrilled to have Daniel's ear. My mother eyed me with suspicion, sensing something off. And Daniel, every time our eyes met, his smile seemed to widen. When I got home, there was a message waiting on my phone. Unknown number. No text, just a picture. Claire. Leaving my car. That was the night I realized I wasn't just risking my heart. I was risking everything. My job, my family, maybe even my safety. But here's the truth. Even then, I couldn't walk away. Because love, when it comes like a storm, doesn't ask if you're ready. It just breaks you open and dares you to survive the wreckage. The picture of Claire leaving my car burned in my mind all night. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, staring at it until dawn broke through the blinds. There was no message attached, no threat spelled out. Just the image. And somehow that was worse. Daniel didn't need words. The silence said everything. I see you. I own this game now. The next morning at work, Mason called me into his office again. He was grinning, too wide, as he poured himself another glass of whiskey. You know, Carter, he said, swirling the amber liquid. Men ruin themselves over two things, money and women. I don't think you've got enough money to do damage, so... He let the sentence trail, sipping slow. My palms went slick with sweat. If you have something to say, just say it. He leaned forward, voice dropping low. Don't be stupid. You're not in her league. Walk away before someone gets hurt. I wanted to fight him, to scream, but instead I left the office shaking. Because behind Mason's smirk, I could feel Daniel's shadow stretching over me. That night, I met Claire at our cafe, though she begged me not to. Her hands trembled as she stirred her coffee. He knows, I whispered. She nodded, eyes glassy. I told you he would. Daniel doesn't lose. Not in court, not in life. He'll bleed you dry, Ryan. He'll make sure you have nothing left. So what do you want me to do? I asked, voice breaking. She reached across the table, gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. Run. Leave me before he destroys you. Her words tore something open inside me. And what about you? She shook her head, tears spilling. I chose this life when I married him. You didn't. Don't let my cage become yours. For the first time since I met her, Claire looked small, fragile, even. Not the poised, magnetic woman I fell for, but someone cornered, desperate. And God, I loved her more for it. But love wasn't enough to fight a man like Daniel. 2 nights later, it all came to a head. I was leaving the gym when I saw him, Daniel, waiting by my car, the streetlight casting his face in harsh shadows. Ryan, he said coolly, as if we were old friends. We need to talk. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I forced myself to stand. About Claire. His smile tightened. You're young. You think this is about love. It's not. It's about control. And she's mine. She's not your possession. I snapped. For the first time, his mask slipped. A flicker of rage twisted his features, sharp and dangerous. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Walk away, Carter, or I will take everything from you. Your job, your family, your name. Do you understand? I met his eyes, heart pounding so hard it hurt. And in that moment, I understood the truth. I couldn't win. Not against him. Not in his world. But surrender didn't mean defeat. The next morning, I went to Claire's house. I didn't ring the bell, just like she'd warned. She came to the door, eyes widening when she saw me. Ryan, what are you doing here? He's home. I know, I whispered. That's why I came. Her hands trembled as she pulled me inside. Are you insane? Probably. I took a deep breath, searching her face, memorizing every detail. I love you, Claire, but I can't fight him. And I won't let him use me to hurt you. She broke then, sobbing into my chest. I don't want to lose you. You never had me to lose. I whispered back. Not really. You deserve more than stolen hours and whispered lies. You deserve freedom. And until you choose that, all I can give you is goodbye. I kissed her, slow, final. The kind of kiss that lives in your bones long after the skin forgets. Then I walked out, past the polished staircase, past the weight of her world, into the cold morning air. And I never saw her again. It's been 2 years now. Sometimes, when I drive past Charles Street, I catch myself glancing at the cafe window, half expecting to see her sitting there with her scarf and quiet smile. But she's gone, at least from my life. What I learned is this. Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go, even when it rips you apart. Because love without freedom is just another kind of prison. Claire taught me that. And though she's only a ghost now, drifting through the corners of my memory, I carry her lesson with me. I'm still here, still standing. And sometimes, survival is the bravest kind of love there is.